Hey, it's Michelle with the Medicine Couch. And today I want to speak to those medical providers out there who are miserable, who are so burnt out, and they wonder if they could ever be happy in medicine again. Well, if that's you, I'm here to offer a little perspective and maybe a little hope that there is a right fit for you in medicine. Now, I'm a PA, and if you've watched this channel before, you probably know that I haven't had the smoothest career and that medicine hasn't been what I thought it was going to be. And if you would have asked me a couple years ago if I ever thought that I could be happy in medicine again, I would have definitely said no. But now that I've been doing this channel for a couple of years and have interviewed so many PAs and NPs and heard their stories and learned about what it is that they do, I've changed my mind on that. I really do believe that there is a right fit for everyone in medicine. There are so many different opportunities, and all of the specialties and settings that we can work in are so different that I do believe that for most people, if we found the right opportunity, then they could be happy. Now, it doesn't mean that medicine won't still be hard and that there wouldn't be things that would frustrate you every day about practicing medicine. But I do think overall, people that are burnt out and very frustrated could find joy in a different position. Having said that, I know that there are some people that just have convinced themselves that medicine sucks, that they hate it so much that they really can't shift their mindset at this point, or they just have no heart left for practicing it. Or maybe even they've realized that there's something else they'd rather be doing. Well, if that's you, then maybe those are signs that it is time to walk away. There's a million things that we can do in life, and we are intelligent, educated people. We have lots of opportunities. But if you're in the camp that still has a little bit of hope, that still wishes that you could practice medicine, that doesn't want to walk away from a profession that you spent so much time, money, and effort to get into, well, if that's you, then I'm here to maybe bring you a little hope and to bring you a little bit of help. And like I said, I've been there myself and I completely understand. So for any of you who are in this position who are hating your jobs, but you don't even really know what to do, you don't know where to turn, what would be better. You don't want to go through all the hassle of leaving one job, getting another, going through all the credentialing, and then starting that job and finding out you hate it as much as you hate the one that you're in right now. Well, I think the first step in breaking this cycle is to really spend some time figuring out what it is that you want, what you like about medicine, what you don't like about it, things that have worked and have been good in some practices you've been in, and things that are just awful and that you really don't ever want to encounter again. And you may think, well, yeah, I kind of know that. And I think we all have that rattling around in our heads. But I really feel that putting it all down on paper is a very illuminating exercise and can really help you recognize some things that maybe is hidden in there a little bit. And you may be a little confused about like what kind of things you would write down. And I'm just going to give you some suggestions. They're by no means exhaustive. There's a bunch of things that you could write, but these are things that I would think about. So for me, probably one of the biggest ones would be, how many patients do I want to see in a day? For some people, that is the bare minimum, the least amount of patients that you can see that would make them very happy. For other people, they like to be busy. They like to have that interaction and they want to have a higher patient count that makes the day go by very fast. So figure out where you are in that range and put that down. Or maybe it's a certain patient population that you'd like to see. So if you think about it and you realize, I'm really enjoying seeing the younger patients, like the adolescent patients, or maybe you have a heart for geriatric patients. Maybe it's women's health, maybe it's men's health. There's lots of different populations. Think about that and who it is that you would like to work with. Think about what particular areas of medicine you like. And that can be a whole specialty, or it could be certain diagnoses or disease processes that for some reason just interest you or that you have a heart for. Write those down. Do you like to do procedures? Would you like to be doing more things with your hands? Or would you rather your interactions with patients just be dialogue driven? Maybe it's things like you want to work someplace where you feel respected for a change and that you actually have some input and say about your schedule. Maybe it's the hours and the days of the week that you work, or how much time off you have, or do they give you CME, money and time to actually go learn and go to conferences? Whatever those things are, write them down and get a good idea of the things that would be like your ideal job and what would make you happy. Now, again, I really stress that you should do this, an actual exercise on paper or on your computer somewhere, and not just think about it in your head. It needs to get really concrete, because I'm afraid if you don't do it, that you're going to risk ending up unhappy in another job or not know how to fix the job that you're in. So once you've done that exercise, I think the next step is to think about, is your current job fixable? Are there things that you like enough about your job that would make it worthwhile to spend the time and effort to try to fix things? And do you think that you would have any chance of success to evoke change? And that also is going to take some time to go through and identify issues, but also come up with some good solutions. And if you have some like-minded colleagues you work with, maybe you could spend some time with them outside of work brainstorming about different solutions. Even fixing one or two of the things that drive you mad about your job every day could make all of the difference and really make it enjoyable to go to work. Or if you're honest with yourself, maybe you're the issue. Maybe there are things that you need to fix. I know for me, there were definitely areas that I could have improved in. I mean, I'm a good provider and I feel like I gave my patients good care. But if I'm honest, some of the stress that I felt every day going into work and some of my issues with time had to do with me not having the depth of knowledge that I probably should have. But in family practice especially, you have to know a little bit about everything. And so it really was difficult for me to figure out how to study. Because first of all, I'd come home and I'm exhausted and wouldn't want to study. But even if I did, my brain was trying to figure out what to study because there were so many things that we deal with every day that I would try to study a little bit here and a little bit there, and nothing was sticking. So now that I've had a chance to step back from family practice and from practicing medicine full time in general, I've thought a lot about that, and I think that there's a much better way to study. I would suggest picking a topic, whether it's hypertension or diabetes, and spend a couple weeks, maybe even a month, just focused on learning that topic in depth, watching lots of different videos about it, reading journal articles, doing CME topics on it, identifying particular questions, and then talking to my colleagues about it and see what input they have. And if you do that, even if you took one topic a month, within a year, you would have some really in-depth knowledge on 12 different topics. Or if you backed it down to picking one topic every 2 weeks, at the end of the year, you would really have a great handle on 26 different topics. I mean, how would that change your practice? Let's be honest. How much faster would you be? How much better would your charting be? How much more confident would you be? And how much quicker would you be in talking with your patients and educating them? And the last thing I would suggest is maybe try to develop a niche practice within your current practice. Maybe there's one particular diagnosis or problem that you are really great in solving, or that you have a special interest in, and you like to see those patients. Like if you're in family practice and you like ortho stuff, well, you may be working with other family practice providers who don't really like ortho things. And so maybe they schedule their patients for follow-up with you. And over time, your schedule becomes very heavy in ortho with a little smattering of other things in it. And maybe that changes everything for you. You didn't have to leave and find a new job. You're where you're comfortable, but now you're doing something that you enjoy even more. So if that's you, if you feel like that there's something you'd like to be doing, think about if there's any way to develop a niche practice within the current practice that you're in. Now, if you think none of these things would really make a difference and you feel like that there's nothing salvageable about the job that you're currently in, I would urge you not to be afraid to go try something new, try another job. It's not guaranteed that you're going to find something better, but if you're miserable now, what difference does it make? It is worth a shot, and you never know what kind of great situation that you might find yourself in. So if you think you want to move on and you're happy with the kind of work that you're doing, the specialty that you're in, then it's just a matter of trying to find a better office. And I think one of the best ways to do that is by word of mouth. Network with colleagues, join social media groups like PA and NP Facebook groups. And sometimes you'll see great opportunities come up that people are trying to find somebody that's just the right fit into their office, and you may just step into a gold mine. You also can talk to the pharmaceutical reps that come into your office. They go in and out of all of the offices in your area, and they have a pretty good handle, I think, on what offices are friendly and that the people get along and things seem to flow well, versus those where everyone seems harried all the time and that no one's in a good mood. They can sense all of that stuff. If you want to ask discreetly and you don't want your coworkers or your employer to know that you're looking for a job, you always could say something like, "Hey, I know somebody who's going to be moving to the area. They're a PA, and they asked me if I would scout around and try to help them find a good job. Do you know of any place that's hiring? Or what offices do you think are really great around here that they could go cold call to?" No one has to know that that's for you. But what if you don't really want to work in the same specialty? What if you're ready, do you think, to try something new? Maybe you've done that exercise and you've really identified that, hey, I might really be happy doing something with the ears or throat. And so you're looking at ENT, and you can do adult ENT or pediatric ENT. Or maybe it's more that you go work in allergy and immunology. There's so many body parts and disease processes that overlap that there's often more than one specialty that deal with something that you might be interested in. But maybe your list didn't point to something particular for a specialty, but it did help you identify some things. Like in my case, I know that I want a slower office. I want to see fewer patients. So that in itself may direct the specialties that I look at, especially if you're working in corporate on-site health clinics. To give you an example, I do PRN work oftentimes at an on-site health clinic that's inside a manufacturing facility. And what I love about it is that I'm not seeing any pediatrics. I'm not seeing any geriatrics with a list of 20 medications and 20 different medical issues. I'm seeing mainly 20 to 50-year-olds who are in relatively good health, and they're coming in because they've had a work injury. Normally, it's some kind of ortho injury, or they've got a laceration or a foreign body, they stepped on a nail or something like that. Generally lower acuity, generally fairly slow. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, there's many shifts I've worked that I have seen no patients, 0 patients in a shift. For some people, that would absolutely drive them insane. For me, I call that a great day. Now, that's not most days, but I would say most days we're seeing 2 to 4 patients a shift. A busy day might be 9 or 10 patients, and that is rare. So those jobs do exist out there. If you're interested in occupational medicine and you like a slower pace like that, look at these companies that staff corporate healthcare and corporate clinics. You also could consider student health, campus clinics on-site at universities and colleges. Again, healthier, younger population generally. They're not as busy usually as a regular family practice. Or you could even look at direct primary care. That's a model that generally sees fewer patients in a day. Or maybe you realize you want to be doing more procedures and doing more things. Then you consider urgent care, OCMED again, especially some of those busier clinics. A lot of those things that you see in urgent care, you'll see in OCMED. And then specialties like dermatology, where you're constantly examining the skin and you're doing different biopsies, removing stuff, freezing things off. And there are lots of other specialties where you get to be more hands-on. Or maybe you realize that you really would like to work in surgery. But don't forget to think about those specialties that people forget are surgical, like urology has lots of surgery in it, gynecology, ENT, pediatric neurosurgery. or even being a dedicated first assistant and you don't do any clinic work at all. So your list can really help you kind of narrow down the specialties. And you may say, well, yeah, but I don't know what it's like really in all these different specialties. I didn't have rotations in them. I've never worked in them. How will I know what I can do in those specialties, what it's really like, and if I would like it? Well, my channel can help you with that as well. I have a whole playlist on medical specialties. I'll put the link up here. It'll also be in the description box down below the video. And I interview PAs and NPs in so many different medical specialties. I don't have them all done yet, but I'm working on it. And you can go through that list and watch the videos. I know I have been surprised in doing the interviews myself, the things that I've learned about different specialties, and realizing that there's a lot of specialties that I never even thought about that could be pretty cool to work in. So spend some time and do a little research and see if something jumps out at you. Now, for those of you who are even more adventurous and you're looking for something to really shake it up, I also have a playlist called Cool and Unusual Jobs. And you can learn about working as a PA or NP down at the South Pole, or working at the U.S. embassies around the world, or working in Yosemite National Valley and going on search and rescue missions. Lots of different opportunities that you may not even know existed in that playlist. And I think for the ultimate adventure, maybe you start your own clinic. I do have a video on my channel where I interviewed a PA who has started her own business, and I've talked to many other PAs who actually own their own clinic, their own business, whether it's telemedicine or in person. So it definitely can be done, easier in some states than others. Now, if you want some help with that, if you don't feel like you can navigate that all on your own, but you're interested in it, I would point you to the resource called CPAC, Certified Physician Assistant Consulting. It is a business that is run by two PAs. They have done a lot of the work for you already, and they are a great resource to help you start your own business. I'll put the link to their website down below, and you can check out all that they have to offer. And if you do end up using their services, you can also use my discount code, and that will give you $50 off any of the services that they offer. So we talked about really figuring out what it is that you want. Then figure out if there's any way to fix your current position to make it what you want. And if not, we talked about how to try to find good offices, good positions at places that are going to respect you and treat you well. We talked about being adventurous and looking for cool and unusual jobs or starting your own clinic. And then we also talked about moving into another specialty. Now, if that's the option that you're most interested in, you may be wondering how you actually get hired if you don't have any experience in that particular specialty, or how do you make yourself a good candidate, or even how do you succeed in a new specialty. Well, I've got a video for that. I'll put it right here. It has a lot of great tips in it, and I think it will really help you to make that transition. No matter which path you choose, I wish you all the best and hope that you find your fit in medicine. That's it for now. Take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.